For nearly 2 decades, you've turned to Illegal Curve Hockey as your destination for the latest news, audio, and analysis regarding the Winnipeg Jets, Manitoba Moose, and all things hockey in Manitoba. Join Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk, and Ezra Ginsburg as a special edition of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, presented by Play Now, the official sports betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets, starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. For all those joining us live at Cityplace, as well as on all of our social media platforms, we say good evening, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve pregame show. Along with Dave Manouk, along with Ezra Ginsburg, producer Tim, doing the expert work that he does. We are here for the next 90 or so minutes, getting you set for everything to do with elimination game number 2 on this playoffs for the Winnipeg Jets. They trail in their series to the Dallas Stars 3-1, looking to stage an epic comeback starting tonight with Game 5 in downtown Winnipeg. Gentlemen, great to see you both on this. I think it's a Thursday night. The days are blending together. Dave's giving me the thumbs up. Thursday night, the Jets and the Stars.
Is it Thursday
Game 5.
night?
It is Thursday night. I know. It's a bit of a blur for the last.
Kind of still feels like Thursday afternoon, right? Like it's early evening, but it's.
Well, we've had this conversation more times than I can even begin to count, whether we've debated if it's evening or afternoon, or when evening starts or when afternoon ends. Regardless,
Evening starts at 6.
Okay, well then it's after 6, so it's Thursday evening. We've established that in that case. Whatever it is, it's Game 5 between the Jets and the Dallas Stars. A must-win game, clearly, given that if they lose, their season is over. But the Winnipeg Jets are looking to do it one game at a time, one shift at a time, one period of a time to get back into the series that the Dallas Stars currently have a commanding lead in.
Sorry, Drew, I just got a little bit distracted. Someone was eating a Happy Meal over there. It's always nice to see an adult eating a Happy Meal. Like, I'm always getting my kids Happy Meals, but obviously I won't distract her. But, yeah, obviously, guys, this is an absolutely huge game. We joked for Game 7 about, this being a franchise-defining game or a season-defining game.
Yeah.
It's a must-win. Like you said, they're facing elimination, and the Jets are 1-0 this year when they're facing elimination, right? So they have that going for them. But obviously, guys, the big thing that you're clinging on to if you're the Jets and if you're a Jets fan is the Jets are 5-1 at home in these playoffs. Mm-hmm. Their goals against is 2.17. They've been a lot better, obviously, than they've been on the road. But there's a lot of guys that need to step up offensively, right? It's been well documented.
Right.
I'd argue that Nikolai Ehlers has been the Jets' best player in these playoffs. In this round. Definitely the best forward. And obviously Kyle Connor's got 5 goals. He's been doing his job, but
it's the secondary scoring.
I was going to say, we know.
Dave, you going to be okay over there, buddy?
I'm good.
You swallowed that little meal you had a little bit too quick there, did you?
I guzzled.
You guzzled. You're supposed to chew fully, not swallow whole like a duck, It's a rule of thumb for the rest of life. You might want to take that under advisement.
For everybody watching, Dave M. scarfed down a Filet-O-Fish.
We don't talk about it.
Okay.
His cardiologist might be around, might be checking in to make sure he's eating healthy in the lead up to the Game 5.
It's okay, Dave. I've got a Diet Coke here, and it's like my 4th Diet Coke of the day. So I'm not exactly a picture of perfect health here, but
yeah.
You kind of stole the thunder a little bit there, Drew. Like Cole Perfetti doesn't have any points in the second round. Vlad Nemestikov doesn't have any points in the second round. Alex Iafallo's only got 1 point in 11 games, right? Like there's no shortage of guys. Even Mark Scheifele and Gabe Vilardi, right? No points in their last 2 games in the 2 games in Dallas, right, guys? So there's no need to go up and down the list. There's no shortage of guys that need to step up. This is the biggest game of the year. We're going to see what the Jets are made of. And we're going to be talking about Connor Herabchuk, who hasn't been good on the road. He's got to be excellent tonight. And it was just 6 days ago, guys, that he had the shutout in Winnipeg, right? So it's not like that was 4 years ago. That was recently.
It was Friday night.
Exactly. So Connor Herabchuk's obviously got to be better. He's got to outplay Jake Ottinger. Jake Ottinger stole the game. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
He stole Game 4. He made some incredible saves. What was the shot attempts, Dave? What were the shot attempts? 72 to 40, something like that. We broke it down on the post-game show. We're not going to spend too much time breaking down last game because we want to focus on tonight's game, but they played well. So I think that you're taking what you did right in Game 4 and you're trying to carry that over to Game 5. Look, these teams know each other by now. They played each other 4 times during the regular season. They've played each other 4 times now in the playoffs. There's no secrets. These are really good teams. It's going to come down to who can execute better.
Yeah, although it still doesn't have the juice that the St. Louis series had. It doesn't have the juice when the Jets play the. I'm allowed to say that.
Sorry.
When the Jets. It's funny. Sometimes when I'm about to send a tweet, I will occasionally write that, and I'm
It's
like,
funny because I could feel Drew. Like Drew was kind of holding back for a second there,
Yeah.
and then you mentioned
God.
it. So like,
I was like, well, it's fine, whatever. It's all
Just
good.
lean into it there.
It's all
We're
good.
proud of who we are.
Yeah, it's all good. I'm not worried about the ADL giving me a phone call now. But anyways, so the point is that when the Jets play the Wild, for example, there has that sort of that rivalry, you feel it, and it's weird. Like I just haven't felt it in this series to date. I know that it just doesn't have that bad blood vibe yet. And
But to your point, sorry for interrupting. I would argue that none of the second round series, and of course the Edmonton Vegas series is now over. None of the second round series had the hatred that the first round I think had,
and that's
I
usually
think
the way
it's
it
because the games just become hockey games in the second round, whichever team can better execute. Whereas the first round has got so many other elements of almost the roller derby on ice. Because St. Louis's goal in that first round was just to try and drive the opposition through the end boards.
it was to injure the Jets players, and they succeeded.
To some extent, yes. So I think the round two. I think the reason why it doesn't have as much hate on is it just. I agree with you. I agree that it just seems more hockey as opposed to hatred, I would say.
And that's fine. I'm just saying that it just doesn't have that the zest, like I said, the juice, if I can say it properly and not get distracted. But the fact of the matter is that you're not seeing that. Now, to the point that you boys were making initially, before I went off on my tangent, one of the things that the Jets have to do is make Jake Ottinger's life more difficult because they're certainly not doing that. We talk about the volume of shots, which is great. It's a Carolina thing, really. And by the way, you want to talk about series that nobody's paying attention to? Carolina and Washington, I don't think anybody's actually watching that series.
Right.
Like I tried watching a little bit of it, but it just doesn't. That has, the Seth Jarvis aside as he.
Dave wants zest.
I want a little
There's no
zest. And honestly, like Toronto, Florida does.
Well,
And honestly, like
Florida's so mean and they're so entertaining to watch. And
Sure.
there's nothing more entertaining than Leafs fans throwing Leafs jerseys on the ice during Game 5.
Although
at
I did see a Jets fan do something funny. It was like they had a picture of the ref's jersey on the ice. They said one of the Stars fans are throwing a Stars jersey on the ice. Made me chuckle. But no, I just think that it doesn't have it. Like I actually enjoyed the Edmonton and Vegas series. So. Again, like I said, these two teams, first time they're ever playing each other, and it's an interesting one. I'm just saying that just from that perspective, especially given how polar opposite it was from the St. Louis one. But none of that matters. What matters is that the Jets are down 3-1, and this is a must-win game. So you've got to focus on the things that they've done well. And let's be realistic. While they gave up some bad goals and they were mistakes that led to goals, they played a pretty good road game last game. Now, they've changed the lines back to the original lines that we saw in games 1 through 3. When I say the lines, I mean the forward lines.
We think.
I was going to say, that was my qualifier.
Okay.
We think that that's what they're doing because that's what they did in morning skate, Ezzy. But, of course, in Game 4 of morning skate in Dallas, that was what they did. In warm-up, that's what they did. And then they changed everything around when the game actually got underway. So we'll see what Scott Arniel and his coaching staff decide in terms of the lineup. But right now, our anticipation is they've gone back to Scheifele, Velarde, and Connor. And one of the things that we know is that like the big guys have to drive this team, and they definitely do. But as he's right, secondary scoring from lines 1, 2 through 4 have to get going.
These guys are ready.
These guys are ready to
They're
go.
wearing their buckets. They got their faces painted. Those are great Jets fans right there. That's great to see as we're live here, second floor, Cityplace, the Illegal Curve pregame show ahead of the Jets and the Dallas Stars.
I thought they were going to attack you there, Drew, for a second.
Well,
I was
you
getting a
know.
little bit nervous. I would have protected you.
We got
Thank
Timmy
you.
here. So
Yeah,
security.
Timmy's security producer. He wears all sorts of different hats.
Like I thought they were going to come up and give Drew a big hug or something, Dave. Those guys were fired up.
Well, hopefully they don't.
Drew's not a hugger, though.
I'm not a hugger. I'm not a hugger in that sense. But to your point, though, Dave, I mean, the secondary scoring is hugely important for the Jets. There you go. People,
Absolutely.
The fans are still optimistic. They're heckling us. They're loving us. Everything.
Believe is the mantra right now.
Believe is the mantra. My wife has a shirt that says "Believe," a Jets T-shirt that says "Believe." So
And we love to be heckled, by the way. Some people don't like to be heckled. You can heckle us. Throw fruit at us. Whatever you want to do.
Preferably not throwing food at us, if at all possible.
We need nutrition.
Again, preferably not. It's not an unreasonable benchmark to try and establish here. But to your point about secondary scoring, and that's no question about it. You saw it in game 4. Who gets the goals for the Dallas Stars? It's Mikael Granlund. the Jets need that sort of that second line or that third line to produce. Now you're on home ice and you get the matchups you want. And the Jets executed that really fabulously in game number 2.
Right.
Game number 1 was the Mikko Rantanen show for those 8 minutes where they won the game. But now the Jets know. To your point, it's the familiarity between these two teams is pretty clear. It's just about who executes better at this point in time. And so the Jets have to be saying, look, the way we executed on for Game 4 was pretty reasonable. We controlled a lot of the flow of the play. Now that execution needs to translate into goals. It's not good enough to hit the crest of Jake Ottinger anymore. Right. It has to go into the top corner where Granlund was able to put the litany of shots. Connor Herabchuk has to make the saves he needs to make. He needs to not let in any soft goals, which is something that has obviously been a bugaboo. 11 goals these playoffs from 30 feet or beyond have been scored against Connor Herabchuk.
Is that good?
That's not good. It has to stop. But the Jets themselves need to get on the forecheck. They need to execute. They need to start picking corners as the good offensive team that they were during the regular season.
Going back to what you were asking about before, Drew, the line combinations, and the line blender was in full force, obviously, for Game 4.
Yeah.
I didn't like how the lines put it this way. Connor Scheifele-Velarde were one of the best trios in the league during the regular season, right? I think it's the right move to, at the very least, start with that trio.
Yep.
And then we saw Lowry, Ehlers, and Velarde, and then we saw Nemesnikov, Niederreiter, Nemesnikov, and Perfetti.
Right.
But the reality is, guys, they need everybody to get going here. We already documented how many guys don't have any points in the series, how many guys haven't scored a goal in this series, right? They need a better effort, top and bottom. They need a better effort, and I think they're going to get it tonight. I mean, you talk about Connor Herabchuk. Obviously, he's got to outplay Jake Ottinger, not just tonight, but if they want to win the series.
Yes.
And also, guys, I think the Jets have some, whether it's karma or some luck coming their way from what happened in Game 3 with the allowed goal. The Jets seem to have not got really a lot of bounces in this series, and with what happened, we all know that goal shouldn't have counted. Tonight, we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if we see, a puck redirect off of someone's behind or off their leg or something like that, because the Jets really haven't benefited from some of those bounces that the Stars have.
I don't think there's any question, but you're going to have to manufacture things, and you're going to have to use the crowd to your benefit. The crowd's going to be excited.
Everybody spoke about that today.
Yeah, and that's one of the sort of big things that they're going to use is draw from the energy, and there's no excuse, right? They've played a number of games already in this building. I think someone was saying with the preseason games and all the other games, this is the 100th game of the season for the Winnipeg Jets. I think someone said that. I'm not sure if that was...
Not in this building, 100th game in total.
I said 100th game for the Winnipeg Jets. I never said in Winnipeg.
Sorry, I got confused there for a second. Yeah.
Boy,
well, that would make sense. 82 regular season games, and what is it? This is another 12.
And then...
So were there 6? I think there were 6 preseason games, so the math is mathing there.
Yeah, the math.
2 plus 2 plus 3, carry the 4.
I just lost my headphones, I think. But anyways, I'm not sure.
It's funny, though, Dave, because they're in your ears, so I can see them.
But. Well, they are in my ears, but I couldn't hear anything. So now I'm back. We're good. Timmy, thanks very much for being so on top of things. But yeah, I mean, look, it is incumbent on the Winnipeg Jets to be dialed in from the moment the puck drops, to use the crowd to their benefit. For Connor Herabchuk to make the big first save that he faces, he can't let that first goal in. He just can't. And because, again, not to say, and look, I think the crowd's going to give him the MVP chant again. I think they will.
No question, I think they will.
I think they will. So I'm just saying that, there's been a lot of back and forth, and I just think that it'll be very, the Jets, no. I just expect the Jets to have been through this sort of, experience, if you will, with the final game against the Blues, where it was a do or die. So it's not like this is new. And the one thing, again, I asked Scott O'Neill about it yesterday in the media availability, and one thing this team has done well, they've compartmentalized. They don't focus on Game 6 or Game 7, the tall task ahead of them. They're focusing on Game 5. Because as we've talked about, there's nothing after this game. If you don't play well tonight, then you're not playing. We're not talking about. The only thing we're doing about the question, boys, is when are the exit meetings?
Right.
They don't want to be doing that. They want to keep playing hockey. Their focus is going to be on that. So I expect a much better effort from this team. And again, like I said, it wasn't It wasn't tight. It was, the same attitude was at the media availabilities and on the ice today. They weren't quiet. They weren't particularly loud. They just were treating it like it was every other day.
Business-like.
Business as usual.
Yeah, well, business as usual, is the approach you need to take, because you can't win 3 games in one period. You can't win 3 games and win the series just by your performance tonight, but you need to get out, and I think what's important for the Winnipeg Jets is to get the opening goal. And I know it's cliche that you always want to get the opening goal, but when you're always playing from behind, as they have been in games 4 and game 3, it's hard.
Yeah, Niederreiter got the first goal in Game 3.
In Game 3, the Jets were up 1-0?
I forget now. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought Niederreiter got the first goal in Game 3.
Game 3 may as well have been 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? Like
I'll fact check that in a second.
I'll
fact check that, but I don't believe. It's possible.
But regardless, though,
but
Drew,
the point is, you need to play from ahead.
Yeah, you need to get the first goal. You check it. I'm probably going to be wrong. Niederreiter scored the first goal in one of the games. Maybe it was Game 2. Maybe it was Game 3. Dave's not checking. Dave's letting Drew do all the fact checking.
I was going to, but then I'm like, why are we both fact checking?
Well, the reality is, guys, this is gut check time. It's an absolute cliche. Do we have an answer yet, Drew?
Not yet. Just keep talking.
It's gut check time for this team. They've got to be better, starting with Connor Herabchuk in net and continuing special teams we haven't even talked about. Everybody knows.
You're 100% wrong.
Okay.
Rupe Hintz got the power play goal like 3 minutes into the game.
So which game did Niederreiter score the first goal?
Probably game 1.
Or did he score that goal?
The Jets opened the scoring in game 1.
Okay,
game
one.
And game 2, of course, they won by shutout. So that was, they did not. They played from behind in the games in Dallas. Though,
yeah,
is what happened there. Anyways, continue your thought.
Yeah. So it goes back to what I was saying before about this needs to be a team effort, right, guys? It needs to be coming from all 4 lines, and maybe if the Jets are struggling a little bit offensively early on, you're going to see Scott O'Neill go back to the blender.
Yeah.
But the depth has got to come through. We talked about all the guys: Cole Perfetti, Vlad Nemestikov, Alex Iafallo. These guys have to chip in. The Jets don't have any goals from their defense in this round. That you don't have to fact check. I know that for a fact.
Right.
That the Jets don't have any goals from their defense.
Well, you get the matchups. I think that, the Jets have succeeded in this series. When they've been able to get their final change, they've been able to get the matchups that they want. And so you're going to get that tonight. So, I expect, that Adam Lowry is going to have a heavy helping of Mikko Rantanen, just like he did in Game 2, which the Jets obviously won that game by the 4-0 score. So a very successful performance there. So I expect Lowry's going to get Rantanen. And, Scheifele and Connor and Velarde, they know the stakes. Perfetti, Nemesnikov, Ehlers, everybody knows the stakes. It's not like anybody's, going to be keeping their powder dry for a Game 6. They have to leave it all out there, which again sounds like a cliche, but the Jets, when they have faced, a difficult circumstance, they have stepped up. And I mean that both in the regular season and in the playoffs. Look, down 3-1 late in the game to St. Louis is obviously not how you expect to come back and win a game.
Right.
But they did. And anytime this year during the regular season when they've usually faced adversity, they've been pretty good at fighting back against that adversity. Now, it's a different story. It's hard to do for 3 straight games. Don't get me wrong. They are certainly, trying to push the boulder up the hill, and it's not going to be very easy to prevent it from rolling back down on them. But you have to start with what you have on home ice. You have to start with the advantage that you have, which is being able to play at home, where you've been much better than on the road, where you haven't won on the road. So, Captain Obvious with that comment. But that's how it starts. Again, 1 game at a time. And I don't, it's not like it's an impossibility. It's not like they've been going to St. Louis and like they did last series, and on the road those games haven't even been competitive.
Right.
They were competitive. Both games were competitive. They were, a controversial goal and a Kyle Connor breakaway away from the game being even closer to that in the 2 games in Dallas. Think about what happens there if that goal isn't awarded to Alex Petrovic. Think about what happens if Kyle Connor scores the tying goal shorthanded. At that point in time, victory is close. It hasn't been so far out of their grasp like it was on the road in St. Louis.
No, there's no question about it, and that's one of the things that you need this team to be aware of. Is that even though you haven't been able to win on the road, the only thing you can focus on right now is what you're doing at home, and that's the most important thing. And again, a good start, secondary scoring, the team, again, using the energy from the crowd. But again, one of the most important things, and I'm not putting it all on him, and I agree with Scott Arniel when he was asked about Herabchuk and the numbers, and he basically said, "Look, I'm not putting it all on our goaltender." And we went through the reasons why it's not all on Connor Herabchuk, but he has to stop shots.
Sure.
And the ones that he can stop, the ones like the Granlund shot from whatever that was away,
the 1-0 goal, the power play goal.
He needs to be the guy. And
Yep.
look, at the end of the day, bottom line is, I think he will. I think he'll know that there's a challenge. Believe me, if you don't think he was, again, credit to him that he went out and spoke after the game. Mm-hmm. I mean, he should, because if his teammates have to, he should have to. So I don't have again, I'm not applauding him for doing it, but I just think like he did it, which is good, better than not. And to me, the most important thing is for him to be like, listen, like I have to be, again, my teammates have kept me in this series, or kept me in the Blues series. It's time for me to be the potentially Hart winner, the 3-time Vezina winner, regardless of anything else. He's just got to see what he can do. And again, like I said, because there's a lot on him, and a lot of this is on his shoulders, whether people like it or not. I mean, the amount of comments that you see with whether it's on social media, like it's interesting, right? So again, like I said, that to me is one of the things that I'm going to be watching tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's worth mentioning this, and Murat mentioned this in his article. Connor Herabchuk's save percentage at even strength is actually better than Jake Ottinger's in this series.
Yes.
Connor Herabchuk's penalty killing save percentage is 500 versus Ottinger, who's at 958. So it's not like Herabchuk has been terrible. I mean, the PK is huge. I mean, goaltending, special teams, right there. That's a big part of whether or not the Jets are going to not only win tonight, but then extend it to Game 6. Pardon me. Well, obviously they would if they won. Right. Extending it to Game 7 and winning the series. Right, guys?
They have, to your point. They've won, or they've been certainly 50-50 in the 5-on-5 battle, which is where most of the play is at usually. But it's the special teams that are absolutely letting them down. And it's which was
our big concern throughout the course of the season.
No question was the PK.
Was the PK. We talked about it ad nauseum. We said the PK has to be better. It doesn't have to be a top 5. Has to be better than it is. Right. And right now, especially with the guys they brought in to be PK specialists, that to me is a big concern.
Right, the guys who've been brought in, I mean, that's what they really augmented at the trade deadline. That's why you bring in a Luke Shen, and that's why you bring in a Brandon Tanev, neither of whom have really done their job in solidifying the PK, not solely blaming it on them. But again, the struggles in those key areas are really the tipping point and the determining factor in a lot of the series so far, and that's why the Jets need to, if you still play like you played at 5-on-5, good things are likely going to come your way, especially if you can then see improvements on the PK and see improvements on the power play. You get a power play goal instead of giving up a power play goal. You flip those two numbers, all of a sudden it's probably a 2-all series, or even the Jets might even be up 3-1 instead of being down 3-1, facing elimination like they are tonight, Ezzy.
Absolutely. There's no doubt that the special teams are something that has not been good enough on both sides, right? Dave mentioned the PK.
Both sides for the Jets, you mean?
Yes. Dave mentioned during the regular season the PK at times struggled. The power play was something that it was either first or second for the majority of the season. The other thing, Drew, you mentioned Brandon Tanev. He doesn't have any points, I believe, in 11 games now. It would be great if the fourth line can contribute, and that's what we're talking about.
Are you surprised that you haven't seen any changes to that fourth line? I mean, remember that?
I am actually, because
Jared Anderson-Dolan, when he was in the lineup, he was effective for the Winnipeg Jets in that first round against St. Louis. He left the lineup. He hasn't been back. Now the Jets have gotten healthier since then, but it is a little surprising to me that the guys who really did contribute haven't been brought back, haven't been back, given an option for the Winnipeg Jets, when other guys who've been fixtures at the bottom of the Jets lineup who have struggled continue to get opportunity.
Yeah, Jared Anderson-Dolan, I think, absolutely has earned a right to be in the Jets lineup, but, I mean, the question becomes, who are you taking out, right? Like, you're probably not taking out Alex Iafallo, so you're probably taking out Brandon Tanev. Yeah. Is it Mason Appleton we're talking about? Well, Mason Appleton has 7 assists, doesn't have a goal yet. I would argue that he was much more effective in the series against the Blues than he's been against the Stars. So, but to answer your question, yes, I do think it's a little surprising that we haven't seen. Look, when the fourth line isn't clicking, you can either switch the existing players that are on the ice, or you can insert somebody else into the lineup. And Scott Arniel is obviously ride or dying with the current guys that he has in the lineup.
Which are the 12 that you would have expected to be in the lineup after the trade deadline. These are the 12 that when the Jets were after the trade deadline, after all the acquisitions were made, when the team was healthy, these are the 12 that you would have thought would likely be Scott Arniel's 12.
And when you're talking about Brandon Tanev or Alex Iafallo, we're not expecting a hat trick from these guys.
No.
Like Scheifele, Connor, Velarde, Ehlers, like these are the Perfetti. I mean, that before you ask us about this, and I'm sure we'll talk to Connor about Perfetti, that's one player that I think needs to be better and needs to step up. Like he's a primary scorer for the Jets now. He's a driver. We've talked about it. It's not like, are we not sure if Cole Perfetti's going to be in the lineup like last year when he was a healthy scratch. So Perfetti's got to be better, but there's a lot of guys up and down the lineup. Adam Lowry's only got 1 goal in 4 games. It's not like he's absolutely lit it up against Dallas. So up and down the lineup, the Jets are going to need big performances from a lot of players. Neil Pionk doesn't have any points in 4 games in the series. Neil Pionk had 3 assists and played 45 minutes, 46 minutes in Game 7 against the Blues. So Neil Pionk's got to be better. So the point we're trying to say is, guys, like this is do or die for the Jets. And everybody's going to have to give an extra 10 or 15 if the Jets are going to win this game.
That was the mantra 8 months ago.
All season long.
So it's no surprise that remains the same. Yes, Ezzy's absolutely right. I mean, one of the biggest things we have to see is contributions up and down the lineup. And we've been talking about that, and it's a theme. And I'm a little surprised because we've liked the fourth line, but they're not doing much. And they looked...
I like the fourth line last series was better than the fourth line this series.
That's right. It looked disconnected and discombobulated would be the words I'd use as I diss the fourth line of the Jets currently. But it's just not looking good, and they're not doing what they were doing against the St. Louis Blues. They were imposing their will. They were having possession of the puck. They weren't giving up possession of the puck. They were doing the things that they needed to do to allow the first and second lines to soften up the opposition so the first and second lines could try and do their damage. But at the end of the day, we got to focus on one thing. The second line has to be better. It just has to be. Again, Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, and Gabriel Velarde also, but I mean, you need something from that second line. Vlad Domestikov has to do something. Look, at the end of the day, we all said that Vlad Domestikov if this team was really deep, Ezzy, he's your fourth line center, and that gives you a very deep Winnipeg Jets team. He's not. You got to deal with the reality, but they chose not to make the move, so you had to live with the reality that hey, you're going to be able to produce some offense from that line. They're not producing the offense in this round that they need. So if we're talking about the Jets tomorrow and it's a lack of offense because that's been a contributing factor, regardless of whether Connor Herabchuk is letting in goals he shouldn't be letting in, regardless of that, they have to score the goals. This team isn't getting enough goals. So that to me is the one thing I'm going to be watching. How are they going to start and how are they going to kind of, as a collective, get going?
And I agree with what you're saying. Sorry, Drew. I know we need to go to break here.
Yeah.
But those are the conversations, Dave, that'll happen after the series is over.
Right.
We've got to focus on Game 5. And I'm not trying to, cut you down about what you were saying.
No, you cut me down.
This is a situation where you decide. The Jets players decide. They decide: is the season going to continue, or is this going to be another disappointing 5-game loss? And hopefully, we're hoping for the former.
Well, we'd like to be back here for a Game 7 back at Cityplace, for sure about that. Broadcasting the Illegal Curve pregame show later tonight after the game. We'll recap everything that goes on with the Illegal Curve postgame show. That happens after tonight's game between the Jets and the Dallas Stars. Drew Mandel, Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg. We're live at Cityplace, second floor, in the food court, talking about the Jets and the Stars. Connor Herabchuk up next for more regarding the regarding the Jets and the Stars. This is the Illegal Curve pregame show.
We want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling site instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now you might have questions like,
do our profits benefit your community?
No.
Or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. Cityplace is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Centre. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make Cityplace your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime, Visit Cityplace at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Centre. Holt Dental, the new official dentist of Illegal Curve, has a philosophy rooted in 2 unyielding principles: genuinely caring about patients and providing outstanding service. Being a patient of Holt Dental means more than just checkups and treatments. It's taking the time to listen and talk to each patient so they can achieve the best long-term health, functionality, and aesthetics for their teeth, mouth, and gums. Conveniently located at Grant Park Festival on Taylor Avenue, Holt Dental is dentistry of the highest quality in a comfortable and relaxed environment. For more information, visit holtdental.ca. Oh, and there's plenty of free parking at the front door, too. Celebrating its 40th year as Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best and most affordable live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For more information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
At Boston Pizza, a fast lunch doesn't have to mean fast food. Now you can get a $15 lunch served in just 20 minutes, including your choice of a main, side, and drink. That's right, lunch for $15 at your local Boston Pizza.
Little less than 2 hours away from puck drop between the Jets and the Dallas Stars, right around that 8:52 mark, to be exact. I'm not sure exactly how many seconds, but let's assume it's right on that 8:52 mark, the Jets and the Dallas Stars. Game 5, it's a late night in downtown Winnipeg. We're thrilled to be joined by our good friend, Connor Herabchuk of IllegalCurve.com. Does a great job covering the Jets, has been doing so all season long. We'll have his next day thoughts as well after the game tomorrow morning as the Jets look to stave off elimination against the Dallas Stars. You know, Connor, the consensus.
By the way, Connor's our elimination game specialist.
Yes. It is true. Game 7 is when you joined us in round 1, Game 7. So
How'd that turn out?
It turned out very dramatically. It turned out very well. I think your next day thoughts were probably written while you were still vibrating a little bit at that point in time. But
yes.
You know, if it's anything like that, then people in Winnipeg will be glad to accept another victory as the Jets look to continue their series and send the series back to Dallas on Saturday night for Game 6. You know, Connor, we were talking about it, you know, people that need to step up, and the list of, you know, players who need to elevate their game is obviously a lengthy one. Not that the Jets have been bad in this series, but Dallas has just been a little bit better. From your perspective, is there one player in particular that you're looking at for tonight's game as saying he needs to be, he needs to be better? Let's start with the forwards at least. You know, if you had to pick one forward, who's the one you're sort of keeping an eye on as being a key driver for victory for the Jets tonight?
I'll say a player that needs to step up that has really not had an impact on this series yet, I'll say, is Cole Perfetti. And he was the Game 7 hero, so I know it's a sensitive subject at this very moment.
Yeah, what have you done for me lately?
Yes, exactly. What have you done? That's professional sports, is it not?
It is. That's life.
It's also our attitude on IllegalCurve.com.
Exactly. So that second line is back together with Ehlers, Nemestikov, and Perfetti, and when they were together, they weren't impacting the game the same way that they were earlier on in even the St. Louis series when Nikolai Ehlers came back, and Cole Perfetti was obviously the Game 7 hero with 2 goals in that game. I'm looking at him. I'm looking at Vlad Nemestikov, who only has 1 shot on goal in the entire series so far.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a player like Morgan Barron, who I think was really good in the St. Louis series, but has another gear that he could hit in this series, and that fourth line should be an advantage for Winnipeg, but hasn't really been in this series so far. And on home ice, I think they're going to get that opportunity against maybe some of the bottom 6 of the Dallas Stars. But if I had to single out one player, I hate to do it, but I'm going to say Cole Perfetti. He needs to have a big Game 5.
Well, you mentioned Vlad Nemestikov, right? He's one. I mean, we expect big things out of the Scheifele line. I'll give Murat credit because I didn't know this until reading his work in The Athletic. He mentioned that the Jets have the worst shooting percentage of all teams in the playoffs right now. The Jets were 3rd overall out of 32 teams during the regular season. First off, I don't know if you knew that before reading it in Murat's article. Maybe you did already, Connor. But, I mean, that to me shows you that the Jets are due for a goal explosion, right? Like, not just Game 5, but hopefully, they're able to take the series to 7 and bring it back to Winnipeg. But, I mean, it's just really hard to comprehend that, when you have so many dangerous weapons out there, and they just haven't been able to score in this series.
Yeah, I think Jets fans would be okay with that. A little bit of a regression to a positive regression for what the shooting percentage has been in this series. Another thing that Murat featured was their shooting percentage on the power play is, I believe, like 4.3%. The worst shooting percentage on the power play in the regular season was the Ducks at like 8.5%. So the Jets are less than half percentage worse than the worst shooting percentage on the power play. And if you're looking for somewhere that the Jets are overdue for a goal, my goodness, is it the power play? And Jake Ottinger has been sensational. If Kyle Connor raises the puck about a foot, we're talking about a Game 4 win twice in that one. So it's up to them to bury their chances, because they're definitely getting their chances, even on the power play. But Jake Ottinger has been great, and they're maybe not getting enough traffic in front of him either.
Well, just 1 second before Dave asks his question, you mentioned Kyle Connor. Connor.
Kyle Connor, Connor.
It's crazy to think that he has, for a guy who had 47 goals during the regular season, the fact that he hasn't scored a power play goal since late December to me is like, it's incomprehensible.
It was the Toronto Maple Leafs road game right before Christmas. The final game. Yes. The afternoon, the 1 p.m. Monday start. Yes, I did.
I think you and I did the post game together,
yes,
Connor.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. That was a fun one.
That was. I was in Kentucky. You were in, I don't know where these two.
I don't know, David was lacking something, if you ask me.
That was a fun one, though.
Pedantic show, if you ask me.
It's shocking that Kyle Connor has not scored, and it kind of makes sense when you dive into it a little bit more. Like, when was the last? I mean, in the St. Louis series, he had a glorious chance on the power play. I can't remember one in this series where he's had a great chance on the power play. It's mostly, Ehlers in the bumper, or Velarde at the side of the net, or something along those lines. I can't remember Kyle Connor's, where he's been absolutely robbed in this series on the power play. So
let me ask you that. Do you think that maybe they should align him slightly differently than they have been? And they have been for 6 months at this point in time.
Right.
Well, maybe not 6, but 4 at least.
Yeah.
He's almost stagnant where he currently is. Is there a thought that maybe, when the power play was at its most successful, and I apologize, Dave, for jumping on your question here, but when the power play was at its most successful, the movement was constant.
Yes.
I think that they aren't moving nearly as much as they were earlier in the season.
I agree.
And maybe Connor is just too predictable in that spot.
If my counter to that is, if they're going to be predictable with where Kyle Connor is in the power play, be predictable. Feed him one-timers. Like, they're not feeding him shots right now. He's just kind of staying there.
Right.
Nikolai Ehlers and Gabe Velarde are the two that are kind of interchanging between the goal line and the middle of the ice. Scheifele, Connor, and Morrissey aren't really moving as much, and when the power play was its most successful, you saw all 5 players moving. So I agree with you. More movement is needed, more puck movement, more shots at the net, and if Kyle Connor's the one taking those shots, I think the Jets, I think that should be their game plan on the power play for sure.
So, Connor, there's a tendency, especially with all these guys care. Everybody wants to help out in any way they can. Mm-hmm. How much are you watching these guys to not try and get out of their structure because they care so much, they're trying to do too much? How much of that do you think is a concern for Scott Arniel? Because we're talking about all these guys who you want to see perform and want to do more. Well, they could get outside their structure and what has been successful with them in order to try and elevate themselves personally so they can help the team out.
Well, I think, the lineup, you guys probably ran through it, is back to what we've seen all season long with Connor, Scheifele, Velarde, and the second and third line being what they are. I think with their backs against the wall in an elimination game, that is a move to kind of counteract that from Scott Arniel. It's like, you're not trying to do too much. You know who your line mates are. You know what makes your line successful. And the Jets will look to do that tonight. And I think a lot of people didn't like, or at least online, didn't like the fact that the Jets are going right back to the lines that they had all season long and maybe didn't work in Game 3. Maybe that was the Jets' worst game of this series. And I don't know. I don't mind it in a backs against the wall kind of situation where you need that familiarity with your line mates to counteract the nervousness or trying to do too much that they might have.
Connor Herabchuk, our guest on the Illegal Curve pregame show. Connor, of course, does a lot of great work with us at illegalcurve.com. Drew Mandel, Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg with you. We're live in the second floor Cityplace Food Court talking about the Jets and the Stars about an hour and a half or so. A little more than an hour and a half until Game 5 between the Jets and the Stars. from the back end, Connor, the defense, does not have a goal. The defensemen don't have a goal yet in this series. Where's that offense going to come from? I mean, Josh Morrissey is obviously the answer that it needs to be. I mean, he had the beautiful pass to set up the goal. I think that was Niederreiter's goal, earlier in the series. But do the Jets need to get scoring from the back end to be successful over the next 3 games, or can they just can those players just keep doing what they're doing, or is that sort of something that the Jets need to find a way to get?
Absolutely it is. And you're seeing it from, we saw it in round 1. The St. Louis Blues did a really good job getting offense from their blue line. And with Miro Heiskanen coming back for the Stars, they're slowly going to add that element into their game as well. Having no goals from the blue line is something that is a concern. And this team is struggling to score in this series. Jake Ottinger has had some glorious saves, but the Jets aren't doing enough to get traffic in front of him and get those shots through from the point. So I'm looking at Neil Pionk, who does a great job of doing that. I'm looking at Josh Morrissey, who snapped Colin Blackwell's ankles on that one to do more of that dancing at the blue line that we've seen so often. And I will say from the third pairing as well, Hayden Fleury has done a good job, at least in this series, of moving the puck up the ice with his feet or with a pass. You're not really looking for offense from Luke Schenn, but Pionk and Morrissey absolutely need to bring that offensive element. And I know it's a lot of nervous energy. Jets season could end tonight. One thing that does fascinate me about elimination games is how much these players are going to play. Like Josh Morrissey, there is no tomorrow, right? If you don't win this game. So is he going to creep up on 28, 29 minutes of time on ice? That's something that we'll see in the first period. Like Josh Morrissey might play 10 of the first 20 minutes in this first period, and we'll know. But that's something I'm fascinated to watch as the game goes on.
Connor, I think you just found a really good slogan for tonight's game. There is no tomorrow. Could be a good Hollywood movie title as well.
Apocalyptic, if you ask me.
Yeah, maybe a little bit apocalyptic, but wanted to ask you about Connor Herabchuk because everybody knows that he's got to be better. He's got to be better than Jake Ottinger specifically. How important do you think this game is for him personally? I mean, it seems like an obvious question, but he hasn't played well in the playoffs, period, but specifically on the road. But I guess going back to what I was going to ask you, how important is it for him? Because we know that the Jets won't come back and win this series unless he steals one of these 3 games.
Absolutely. And he's been good at home over these playoffs, but you got to show up when, back's against the wall. You need your best players to be your best players. It's a cliche that's used all the time. This guy's up for a Hart Trophy nomination. He needs to be one of the Jets' best players and be better than Jake Ottinger in this game. I will say if they win this game, Game 6 on the road becomes the biggest pressure game of Connor Herabchuk's career.
The new season-defining game.
It's the road element for me. Is he's been fine at home, so I'm not really concerned about Connor Herabchuk going into this game. Should you be? Absolutely, because he hasn't played up to that Hart Trophy level, but it's been on the road where he's really, really struggled. So if he looks like himself tonight, that's great. That is awesome, and the Jets will probably have another game. It's up to him to show up in Game 6 if they win this game, because it's been on the road where he's a .793 save percentage in these playoffs. And you see guys like Stuart Skinner, back-to-back shutouts. The hockey's so weird. Goalies
He's been written off by everybody, right?
Goalies are just so voodoo at this time of year, and it's up to Connor Herabchuk to change the momentum, not only in this game and look like himself, but if they do get to a Game 6 on the road.
Connor, one of the things that we talk about is obviously the Winnipeg Jets, and that tends to be our focus from the Dallas Stars perspective. If you're the Jets, are you trying to limit Rantanen? Are you focusing all your efforts on him, or are you just saying, listen, Lowry's got him, we have to just focus on our game, and if we play our game with the structure, with the support, we should be able to, and obviously solid defensive play from our goaltender, we should be able to take this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a big reason. I mentioned the lineup as well, going back to those regular lines. You're going to see Niederreiter, Lowry, Appleton, and Samberg Pionk on the ice every single time that Rupe Hintz, Mikko Rantanen line is on the ice. And their job in this game is to shut down Mikko Rantanen and that line. It's not really to generate offense. I mean, you'd love to get a goal and get that sustained ozone time from the Lowry line. But if they can neutralize Dallas's top line, which has won them 2 of the games in the series, like Game 1 and Game 4, I think the Jets were the better team. One player on Dallas's top line has a hat trick, and you lose, and you're down 3-1 in this series. So I think with home ice, with the matchups, every time Rantanen's coming over the boards, you're going to see Samberg and Pionk especially. And in Game 1, one of the reasons Mikko Rantanen had the hat trick is because he was double shifted on that fourth line. So it's up to everyone, not just those guys specifically, but Morgan Barron's going to have shifts where Mikko Rantanen's on the ice. Hayden Fleury and Luke Schenn are going to have shifts where Mikko Rantanen's on the ice, right? So it's those guys specifically, but the whole team has to definitely stick to that defensive structure, Dave.
Connor Herabchuk, our guest on the Illegal Curve pregame show, live, second floor, Cityplace, in the food cart, getting you ready for the Jets and the Dallas Stars. We know that the best players have to step up. We've covered that. Mark Scheifele, why do you think he's struggling so much in this series? The numbers are ugly. 0 goals, 0 assists, 0 points. 4 shots on goal in 4 games, outscored 7-3 at 5-on-5, outchanced 38-24 at 5-on-5, and a expected goals percentage of 29.5%. I got that from somebody's Twitter feed, somebody very smart. That is Connor's Twitter feed himself. But why do you think that Scheifele has been struggling in this series?
Yeah, I don't know if there's really... Could there be like lingering effects from the Schenn hit that he's coming back from? That could be something, but I do think that Dallas has done a really good job. We talk about Sandberg and Pionk being against Rantanen. Esa Lindell has been out there. The Sportsnet panel did a good job highlighting that. Esa Lindell has been on the ice every time Mark Scheifele's been on the ice when the games were in Dallas, which is really where he struggled. I didn't think Mark Scheifele had 2 games to remember in games 3 and 4. I thought Kyle Connor was good. Vlardy was good at times. Scheifele definitely looking for a little bit more there. But again, at home, not sure if the Stars are going right back to 11-7. I know Pete DeBoer said today that they're going to the same lineup, but these coaches have said things before, all the way up until the puck drop.
We thought we knew the Jets' forward lines last game until the game started.
And we thought we'd see Colin Miller as well. So it's going to be interesting to see if they go 11-7 again. If they do, you know that the Stars are going to hope to have Heiskanen, Harley, or Lindell, one of those guys on the ice basically at all times. But it's up to Mark Scheifele when one of those players isn't on the ice, or even when they are tired after an icing or whatever, to take advantage of that. And the Jets' power play has to get going, or else they really, in my opinion, have no shot in this series. So he's the driver for that for sure. And Mark Scheifele needs to have a big Game 5.
Connor, you mentioned Colin Miller, and we were talking about this. Drew brought it up before you came on. He was asking specifically about the fourth line and if we were surprised that there weren't any changes. Are you surprised that there weren't any changes either with the forward group or the D group? Because I think you can make an argument that, Colin Miller has outplayed Luke Schenn thus far, not just this round, but in the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know. I will say with Game 3, I think it was, the physicality in the series really, the physicality from Dallas, they introduced themselves to that in Game 3 on home ice with their crowd behind them. They really took it to the Jets in terms of hits. That continued in Game 4. So I can see why Scott O'Neill's looking to counter in that sixth defense role with another physical player in Luke Schenn over a Colin Miller. I will say with Neil Pionk quarterbacking the second power play, Colin Miller's not really out there for that second power play. This pairing is going to be out there, like I said, against probably Mikko Rantanen at times, or maybe even Wyatt Johnston, Jason Robertson. The Stars' forward core is so deep that I think they're looking for Luke Schenn to throw some big hits, be effective on the penalty kill, get the puck to Hayden Fleury when they do have possession, and he can skate it or pass it out. And I think I do agree with you that I think Colin Miller's been better than Luke Schenn. On home ice, I don't hate the decision as much to go to Luke Schenn because they control the matchups.
Connor, sorry, but just in time.
These playoffs need to wrap up because Dave's losing his voice like nobody's business here.
We're doing a lot of them, and so.
Yeah.
But one of the things I asked Scott O'Neill about yesterday was this idea that this team is able to compartmentalize, and we saw it all year long. When we talked to them about winning 7 games in a row, they're like, "Well, we're focused on the next game."
Yeah.
But I think, and again, like I said, you can say it's all an act, but they did it. If they are, they're pretty good actors, almost Oscar-worthy actors, based on the fact that they did it all season long. And again, they had some losing streaks, not many, but a lot more winning streaks. And we didn't tend to get a lot of resting on their laurels and that sort of thing. Do you think that holds them in good stead for this kind of next few games if they are so lucky, because of the fact that they can just focus on one period at a time, one shift at a time? Something like Pascal Vincent used to say, you can't score 2 goals on one shift.
Right.
So you just got to make sure you go out and do the things, because that to me is what they got away from, was those little details that this team had been so good at all year long. The little, I think of the Nino Niederreiter pass that not deep enough that Rantanen gets up to Granlund for the second goal. I think of the Brandon Tanev neutral zone play where. It's again, whether Connor Herabchuk should have had it is another debate, but ultimately it still gives the Stars a free entry into the Jets zone. So that's the area I'm really looking for, as a team to be able to be on top of their details, and also, again, not focus on, even if they're down a goal, not losing their head and thinking, well, we got to think about that third period.
Yeah, and Dave, I will say this ties into your other question about not trying to do too much. I think as a player, it'd be way tougher to stick to those details in a game where you feel like you have to do so much to keep your season alive, right? Joe Pascucci tweeted this out on Twitter the other day, but
a Pascucci reference.
A Pascucci reference, yes. The Jets' playoff history when facing elimination with home ice advantage is not pretty. Lost to the Ducks, lost to Vegas, lost to Calgary in the bubble, lost to Colorado, Game 5 last year, and then they beat St. Louis in Game 7, as we know, Manitoba Miracle. But I will say, that plays into it. This core needs to respond on home ice, facing elimination. That adds pressure. That adds to every little detail mattering. In a game where I think the top players are going to play a ton, it's up to those guys to stick to those details and not try and do too much and get out of their structure, like you say.
Well, you talk about winning that first elimination game, the Game 7 against St. Louis, the improbable, the impossible, the miracle, whatever you want to call it. Do you think that gives this team an element of belief that 3-1 is not an impossible hill to climb? I mean, you look at the games last year against Colorado when you're down 3-1, or the game against Vegas when you're down 3-1. The Jets just went out meekly in Game 5. Yeah. Do you think that this is, what happened in round 1 and really the entire year's worth of an experience maybe puts this game in a different light than it has the last couple of years?
I do think it does. And I think the Manitoba Miracle, as we want to call it, does play a factor in going into this game. It's even if the Jets are down a goal or down 2 goals in the third period, they're not out of it. They're not out of it until there's 1.6 seconds left, right? I will say that it's, like I said, that with home ice, they have gone out pretty ugly in years past. And this team's ability to, they said all year they're taking it one game at a time. They want to be 10% better. We heard that. Dave and I down at the rink heard that millions and millions of times from this group. This is the time where you're either 10% better or you're not, and you're either taking it one game at a time or you're not. I will say, I said after the Game 4 game that was a road game that you actually liked from the Winnipeg Jets. So if they're able to win tonight, that should also give them confidence going into Game 6 that their last road game, they played one where they maybe felt like they were the better team and could have won that game. But on home ice, I mean, they've been dynamite on home ice in these playoffs. I've liked pretty much every single one of their games, even the only one they lost to Dallas. Maybe the one I actually didn't like was the Game 7 that they miraculously pulled out, because for the first 55 minutes, they weren't that great. But I will say that all of the talk about being 10% better and taking it one game at a time comes down to games like this.
Do you think, continuing that thought process, I always go back to the conference final against Vegas, the Game 5 on home ice. I always thought Paul Maurice panicked by putting Kulikov in the lineup that game, yanking Enstrom. Kulikov hadn't played.
Did you see Kulikov scored last night?
I did see that, yeah. Yes. Kulikov, hadn't played for the Jets at that game for a few months. I think he had been injured. I always thought that Paul Maurice maybe set the tone for that game by panicking with his lineup changes. Now you have Scott Arniel tonight making no lineup changes, keeping this at least as far as we expect.
Yes.
Status quo from what happened in Game 4. Do you think there's maybe him doing that and him not making a boatload of changes, bringing in new guys on the fourth line, anything along those lines? Is just his way of saying, guys, we're fine, we're stable. I trust the 12 of you or the 18 of you when you include the defensemen, that you guys, you've been my go-tos when healthy all season long.
Yeah.
We're not going to do anything to panic. I trust you to go out there.
Yeah, I think the players would like that and respect that from Scott Arniel, because obviously if you're in the lineup, you're one of those players that wants to play in a game like this. I will say that's the lineup that got them the President's Trophy and had them looking very, very good down the stretch. They beat this Dallas Stars team twice and made them look like a non-playoff team in those 2 games with that lineup. So it's up to the Jets. I've said it a few times now. They're going to play so much of Samberg, Pionk, and Morrissey and DeMello and the Scheifele line. And those guys are maybe the lines where they didn't play as well on the road in Games 3 and 4 that led to those narrow losses. I mean, Game 3 got out of hand in the end, but the first 2 periods you were fine with as the Jets were tied 2-2.
One controversial goal, and
you never know.
It's still a 2-all game.
You never know. It is going to be interesting, and we'll never get the answer to this, but will the message from Scott Arniel be we've been fine in this series, let's not change a thing? Or is there going to be a sense of that desperation? Again, we're never going to get that answer from Scott or Neil, but their backs are against the wall.
Connor.
Oh, okay. I will. Maybe I will.
Investigative journalist Connor Herabchuk.
Yeah. Well.
We believe in you.
Yeah, we believe. Nice.
We believe.
Nice. We believe. I will say, like, I think the message from Scott or Neil should be, hey, we've done well in this series. We shouldn't have any reason to panic, as the lineup suggests. And also, we need to play with a sense of urgency tonight, like our season's on the line.
Like they did in Game 2.
Like they get in Game 2, yes.
If the Jets lose the series, I think they win tonight. I'm not going to ask you that because we already called you the elimination game specialist. We know that you're going to predict a Jets win. But if the Jets,
by the way, just sorry as an interruption, Ezzy, if similar to when Nikolai Ehlers broke his streak, if Kyle Connor scores one on the power play, you can thank Paul Friesen of the Winnipeg Sun.
Yes, I saw
because
that.
he did an interview with Connor this morning, and he asked him about his lack of success on the power play. So, and ironically, Nikolai Ehlers wanted to fly Paul Friesen on the road to Dallas, and I was like, I said to Paul, I'm like, that's probably the first time anybody's ever wanted you to be on the plane. And my point, I'm rounded back, is that they'll start bringing Connor if that's the case. If he's the elimination specialist, they'll bring him on the road.
I really hope 81 scores on the power. Like he's due. Like I can't remember playing being more dangerous on a power play and not scoring in 5 months now, right?
Yeah.
But no, going back to the question though, for you, is it a disappointing season if the Jets don't get out of the second round? I know it's very subjective, but I mean, I think I know what you're going to say, but.
Well, I don't even know what I'm going to say at this very moment. President's Trophy winners, first ever Central Division title, won a round, even though it was a miracle. I don't know. I think I'd say no, just because if they lost in 5 to a team that they...
That's not what I thought you were going to say, by the way.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Now I go back.
Skills are not great, Ginsberg.
This is an off-season mind twist, I think, that I would struggle with a lot, because the President's Trophy and winning your first ever Central Division title, that, in my opinion, makes it a successful regular season.
Yep.
If Connor Herabchuk wins the Vezina and wins the Hart, this is a successful season, absolutely. I don't know if it would have been if they had lost a round, but they did win a round. If they go out in 5, it almost makes it a little bit, it makes it matter maybe a little bit less that they ended up winning a round and had an incredible regular season, because the first very, very strong cup contender-esque performance, and nothing against the St. Louis Blues, they took the President's Trophy winners to 1.6 seconds left. The Dallas Stars are on another level, and they're a very, very good hockey team. So if they went out in 5 against these version of the first cup contender, in my opinion, that they face, that would damper it a little bit from what I thought was a very successful season coming into this series.
But worth noting, as Mike McIntyre of the Winnipeg Free Press did earlier today, Connor, all the teams, all the division leaders are on the ropes.
Yes,
right.
yes,
the Leafs are on the ropes to the Panthers. Jets similarly to the Stars. The Oilers are eliminate the Golden Knights, and Carolina right now, although it's 1-1 still in the game, are up 3-1 in their series with the team the Jets were doing battle with all season long for the President's Trophy. So I mean, there is that sort of element that you're not losing. I mean, again, none of these teams are bad. It's not like the Jets lose to the Dallas Stars. It's like, oh, you lost to a bad team. You lost a hell of a good team.
Yeah.
And you lost to a hell of a good team who now has got Miro Heiskanen back. Not an insignificant thing. But from one of the things I was curious about, one of the things that we heard from the players and we heard from the coaching staff, the environment tonight.
Yeah.
And how much they're going to be able to draw from it. Because this isn't the first game of the series. It's not the first game of round 1. One of the things I've noticed with this team is that, there's that nervousness, the tentativeness. We saw that earlier in the playoffs. It's gone now. Now they're using that motivation. Again, it doesn't always translate, but how much do you think that could play a factor in? Because similarly, I don't think the crowd, I mean, it is technically a long weekend, right? So I think the crowd is also going to be treating this like there is no tomorrow, even though, let me assure everyone, there will be a tomorrow, and illegalcurve.com at 7 o'clock in the morning will have all your Jets news.
Absolutely. I do think that this crowd's going to be into it, and there's not going to be any nervous energy. Coming into Game 5 and Game 7 of the St. Louis series, I didn't sense really any nervous energy. And where I think a fan's perspective would come from in this game is, okay, this is a 3-1 series deficit, but that's not really flattering to the Jets. Like, I think they've been better than a 3-1 series deficit. Like I said, I thought Game 1 and Game 4 were coin flip games that they ended up losing.
I said on the post-game show, Connor, the Jets could easily be up 3-1 in this series, right?
If Granlund and Rantanen had hat tricks. I mean, they both had hat tricks in those games. The Jets shut down everyone else if we want to look at the glass half full. But I think this is basically a 2-2 series going on right now that ends up being 3-1 for Dallas. So I think this crowd is going to rally behind this team. There's not going to be any nervous energy. They are going to act like there's no tomorrow and try and get that energy out of their team because, like you said, Ezzy, I think the Winnipeg Jets win tonight, and I don't think fans should have any doubts about them winning tonight. They've been dynamite at home, backs against the wall. You should have faith in this team, and I think that'll result in a lack of nervous energy to start.
The next day takeaways will be on illegalcurve.com tomorrow, where Connor Herabchuk will recap tonight's Game 5 in its entirety. Connor, thank you. We'll let you get back on your way to the arena. We'll see you again real soon. Appreciate your time and appreciate your insight. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me, guys. I'll see you Monday for Game 7.
Yeah, there you go. Like it. Wow, they're going to win in Dallas as well, is what he said.
Connor's 1-0 for elimination games, right? Like, don't mess with them.
It's one thing to say they're going to win tonight, but he's putting it on the board that they're going to win in Dallas as well.
Clip it.
Yeah, bulletin board material for the Dallas Stars.
If it ends up being right, you can be rest assured Connor will clip it and use it.
That's right.
But if it's wrong, you will never see it.
We'll never see you again.
When you're right 51% of the time, that means you're wrong 49% of the time.
The best is I'm going to go on our YouTube channel and I'll notice like this one section has been cut out and not visible. I'm like, why can't I watch that one segment?
Yeah. That's okay. We can do post-production editing as need be.
Yes.
Connor, thank you. Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg. We're live, second floor, Cityplace, in the food court. The Illegal Curve pregame show continues.
We want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling site instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now, you might have questions like,
Do our profits benefit your community?
No.
Or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. Cityplace is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Centre. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make Cityplace your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime, visit Cityplace at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Centre. Holt Dental, the new official dentist of Illegal Curve, has a philosophy rooted in two unyielding principles: genuinely caring about patients and providing outstanding service. Being a patient of Holt Dental means more than just checkups and treatments. It's taking the time to listen and talk to each patient so they can achieve the best long-term health, functionality, and aesthetics for their teeth, mouth, and gums. Conveniently located at Grant Park Festival on Taylor Avenue, Holt Dental is dentistry of the highest quality in a comfortable and relaxed environment. For more information, visit holtdental.ca. Oh, and there's plenty of free parking at the front door, too. Celebrating its 40th year as Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best and most affordable live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For more information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
At Boston Pizza, a fast lunch doesn't have to mean fast food. Now you can get a $15 lunch served in just 20 minutes, including your choice of a main, side, and drink. That's right, lunch for $15 at your local Boston Pizza.
honestly, the off-air conversations that we have are just as entertaining as the on-air ones. They may not be totally appropriate, but they're fun nonetheless.
They're entertaining to us.
Yes, to us. Other people are like, what are those lunatics talking about? Anyways, welcome back to the Illegal Curve pregame show. Drew Mandel, Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg here. Second floor, food court, Cityplace. The crowds are gathering as everybody is getting set for the Jets and the Dallas Stars. Game number 5 between these two teams is about
Dave, take it easy.
hour and 15
Drew's on
minutes
the end.
away.
I'm
I'm
trying to get
okay.
him
There you go. Nobody needs to see the
Drew
full
likes
Drew
it when
shot.
I'm close to him, though. He likes me to be close.
Yeah,
I was trying to be considerate of Drew.
Thank you. I appreciate that. About an hour and 15 minutes away or so between the Jets and the Stars. Game 5 taking place in downtown Winnipeg. Again, do or die for the Winnipeg Jets. Elimination game number 2. They were successful in elimination game number 1, albeit not in the manner that you would traditionally expect the Jets to do so.
I don't think anybody's baboon heart wants another one of those repeats.
No, I'm not even sure I fully recovered from that game 7.
Although if we can get GoPro footage from Colby Spence again, it might be worth it.
That might be worth it, but we'll see. He can do the GoPro footage. With the Jets take an early lead, and then you end. But about this game, I look back at game 2, and the Jets. That was certainly probably the most complete effort the Jets have had this playoffs, and I sort of consider that to be.
Sorry, which game, Drew?
Game 2 of this series.
Okay,
The 4-0 win, where they were far and away the better team. They, obviously Herabchuk gets a shutout, so he's great on home ice. Just a complete effort from the Winnipeg Jets. That's what you need to emulate, I believe, tonight from the Jets' perspective. And frankly, given that usually the more desperate team finds a way to win, the Jets are clearly the more desperate of the two teams.
Confirmed.
And they've been, neck and neck with the Dallas Stars in a lot of these games. To me, that is just sort of the MO for how you want to approach tonight's contest from the Jets' perspective.
Right, and Scott Arniel talked about it, right? They're not changing things drastically. Why would you change things when you were that good at 5-on-5 in Dallas in Game 4, right? And, Luke Shen talked about it as well before the game. Dave was there, so he knows this, obviously. He was saying that, you're playing for the guy beside you.
Yeah.
You're just winning the next shift, right? And I really do think, to Dave's point, this is a veteran team. Sure, the Jets have a few young players. By the way, Drew mentioned that the Dallas Finnish players were better than the Jets Finnish players. The Jets don't have any Finnish players aside from Ville Heinola.
And Rasmus Kupari.
Well, yeah, but
that was the joke.
I know, but I'm just saying
that was the joke.
Are you explaining?
Are you explaining my joke from literally 48 hours ago?
And I was like,
I'm actually mansplaining, Drew. That's what I'm doing.
Of all things, you're explaining comedy to me 48 hours after I made the joke. And it was a good joke, Dave. I mean, you understood the joke.
I laughed. I gave you a high course ha.
I think if you went back, I don't think there was a laugh. I don't even think
Dave
there was
smirked.
a smirk.
There was a smirk.
I don't think there was a smirk.
Oh, I can assure you there was a smirk.
I smirked.
Yeah.
No, but going back to what you were asking, if I can get this back on the rails here.
You took it off the rails.
If the Jets have learned anything from Game 7, it's that you have to believe that you can come back and win this series, right? They're focused on Game 5. They're not focused on, can we win 3 games in a row? There isn't any Game 6 and Game 7 if you don't win Game 5, right? So, I think the Jets know what they have to do. The Jets have defeated the Stars 4 times this year, 3 times during the regular season, once in this round. And, we were just talking to Connor Herabchuk about this. The Jets could easily be up 3-1 in the series. So, going back to I really don't think stylistically or strategically you're changing a ton. At this point, you know that you have to shut down Mikko Rantanen's line with Granlund and Rupe Hintz. That. It's not something Scott Arniel doesn't have to tell the Jets that, right? And I think they're going to be up to the task. I look at a guy like Neil Pionk who came through big in Game 7 against the Blues. He's got to come through. Hopefully he's able to chip in some offense. Cole Perfetti, Dave, we talked about him already. Doesn't have any points in 4 games in this series. Hopefully he's able to chip in some offense, right? So up and down the lineup, this is it. This is your season on the line here.
Yeah, no, look, this is what we've been talking about now for, it feels like a while now. It's obviously only been 48 hours. That's the unusualness about this schedule, right? Is that before we were dealing with all these 2 days between games, and now every game is consistently 2 games in, a game and then another one 2 days later. So, the good news is the Jets haven't had a lot of time to dwell on this. They get to focus on the task at hand. They're not sitting there lamenting their lot in life. They're not sitting there watching are the Jets going to be good enough? Are they going to be this? Are they going to be that? They know what they need to do. They need to limit their mistakes. None of this is rocket science, but their special teams have to be better. Really, you can boil it down to that. Connor Herabchuk has to be better, which he's been at home, so we'll see how that goes. But also their special teams need to be way better. They need a power play goal in this game. We'll see.
They have to be disciplined as well.
Well,
that was something that Murat wrote about in The Athletic. Like, I think the Jets have taken a little too many penalties for my liking.
Well, Dylan DeMello takes the neutral zone holding the stick
Yeah.
penalty that, I mean, whether or not you like the call or not, don't put yourself in a position to let the official make that call.
Don't beat yourselves, really,
Yes.
is what we're saying.
Yeah.
Don't beat yourselves and put yourself in a penalty-killing situation. Don't beat yourself by making turnovers in the offensive zone, right? And that's something that...
It's the details.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's not a coincidence that, Drew mentions the Jets' best game of the series was clearly Game 2 when they won 4-0. But I don't think it's a coincidence that when the Jets play a certain way, they're successful.
Yeah.
Right? And when they don't play a certain way, they cough up the puck, they don't manage the puck, maybe a line change is too long. That's when they're not successful.
Well, again, it's because you're doing things that you didn't do throughout the course of the regular season. And people could say, well, the whole idea of the regular season, as per Scott Arneal, was to develop calluses that you could rely on in the playoffs. Well, I mean, again, we can talk about the fact that this team hasn't gone, clearly they went deep in 17-18, but since that time, other than the 4-game sweep of the Oilers...
During
again,
the bubble, it was such a weird thing.
Yes and no. Anybody who grew up in the years of the Smythe division...
they'll take the win,
will
thank you
take
very
a
much.
4-game sweep. We'll take a win over the Oilers
No question.
in a series, let alone a 4-game sweep.
The problem is they were swept in the next round.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That is good detail. But my point I'm making is that you've got guys who have gone deep enough. You've got guys... whether they're on the team, whether they're on the ice or they're in the press box, they have a lot of resources that these guys know. Like I said, Luke Shen, Colin Miller's gone deep. We know obviously with Vegas. So you have guys who have done a lot of things, and even guys like a guy like Hayden Fleury. A guy like Hayden Fleury, for example, went down from Carolina when I think they got eliminated in, I want to say 17-18, maybe not, maybe 16, but anyways, it doesn't matter. Then went down to Charlotte, and I think he won the Calder Cup with Charlotte that year. My point is that they've got guys who can rely on pedigree, even if it's not necessarily NHL pedigree. And again, one of the things we're going to have to see from all of these guys, whether it's Mark Scheifele, whether it's Gabriel Velarde, whether it's Kyle Connor, I mean, as Ezzy has said, these are your big dogs. This is your opportunity for these guys to establish your reputation. And that, I think, is going to be a governing principle for them. I really do. I think one of the things we talked about with the Jets so much during the summer, for those illegal curve hockey shows during the summer, boys, was this idea of how this team wants to change the narrative. Right? Remember, people were saying when they were 15-1, oh, it's a mirage, it's luck, it's da-da-da-da-da. The point is, you don't do what they did after 82 games by accident.
I think a key for tonight's contest is making Dallas's defensemen uncomfortable. If they're going to go 11-7 again, that usually means that the 7 defensemen don't have an overwhelming amount of familiarity with each other, or that they might not have the muscle memory that a regular 3-pairing unit has with each other, where they know where everyone's supposed to be on any given play. The Jets need to get in heavy on the forecheck. We saw it in Game 4. Where the Jets turned over the puck off of Heiskanen's stick and set up Gabe Velarde 3 or 4 minutes into the game, and Ottinger made that glove save. More of that, more of the active sticks, more of the turning the puck over is what the Jets were so successful at during the regular season. And I think that starts by hitting the blue line. Whether you have possession and you send it in deep, or you're having to chip and chase it, whatever it is, make the Dallas Stars uncomfortable and get in heavier and quicker on the forecheck. I think there are turnover possibilities that the Jets have generated, maybe not as many as you would have liked to see them generate, but they've generated some of them, and more of that is going to lead to more success in tonight's contest between the two teams.
Before we get as he gets in there, and I want to just jump in, but we got a big welcome.
Yes.
This is Tim's dad, producer Tim's dad. So
welcome. I assumed that was the case. Tim and his dad are going to the game afterwards. So
now I see where Tim gets his good looks.
Tim, what's your dad's first name? Peter. Welcome to the show, Peter.
Yes.
We couldn't do the show without your son.
You've got a great son here.
Yes. Yeah. He is the key to this entire operation.
Anyways, I just wanted to give producer Tim and now producer Tim's dad, Peter, a shout out.
Good. Well done on that point. Now,
but it was Ezzy who was going to go.
Okay, go ahead, Ezzy.
Yeah, well, I mean, Drew's mentioning kind of some of the things that the Jets have to do, and that's when the Jets have been the most successful. And that's the thing here, guys. We're now into the 5th game of round 2. We know what the Jets are capable of. Can they do it, though, in a must-win game, right? Like,
Sure.
You're absolutely right. In terms of the Jets' pressure game, when they have the opposition on their heels, that's when they're the most successful. And teams like after Game 2, Sean Reynolds asked the question. Well, you guys obviously remember the question. Dallas was just flipping the puck
in so much?
into center because, the Jets had them on their heels for the majority of that game. So the Jets have the ability to win this game. They have the ability to dominate a team like the Stars. And that's why I think, guys, the series is still a series. It's not going to be over. Jets win Game 5, anything can happen. And that goes back to what I said about Game 7 against the Blues. It looked like the Jets were down and out, and hopefully the Jets are going to learn some lessons from that, and they're going to be able to now win when their backs are against the wall.
Well, it's certainly going to be the challenge. You never want to come back. What is it? About 10% of the time teams come back from 3-1 down, but it's not. It's happened recently. Florida did it to Boston.
3 of the last 5 years.
But that's just it. So it's not like it's an unheard of circumstance, but it does start with the Winnipeg Jets. They have to play better hockey. You have to play the way you played in Game 2. Make Dallas turn, make their defensemen turn and face the boards.
Play like you did for parts of Game 4.
Sure.
Again, Jake Ottinger made some incredible save. We talked about it. The Kyle Connor shorthanded chance, right? If he scores there's a good chance the Jets win the game.
Even before that, the one where it still 1-1 and Ottinger made the save before Dallas turned it right back up the ice and got
Dave knows everybody. He's just waving to his left, waving to his right.
He's a very popular guy, this Mr. Minuk. There's no question about it. The job Scott Arniel's done in this series. What do you guys think? Of his coaching, at least, and this series and really the playoffs. I mean, to me, it's not that he's been. I don't think that Pete DeBoer has outcoached him. I think Pete DeBoer has. When Pete DeBoer recognizes he's got an asset like Rantanen available to him, I think he made a very logical decision. I don't know that there's much that Scott Arniel can do to counter that. But from Scott Arniel's perspective, do you want to see a double shift of Mark Scheifele in tonight's game? Do you want to see more of Kyle Connor playing against, maybe a third pairing or the seventh defenseman of the Dallas Stars? Do you think that, again, there's no tomorrow. We've talked about that in terms of if the Jets lose tonight. So do you expect to see Scott Arniel sort of deploy his bench in a different manner than he did through the first 5 games of this series? 4 games of this series, pardon me. One of you can take it. I don't really care. I'll ask Tim's dad if neither of you.
Peter, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that when you look at the coaching matchup, first of all, the Jets' special teams have to be better. So that's one area where we're going to see tonight. Do we get a power play goal? Is that something that we see? Also, I think the reliance or maybe the unwillingness to break up some of the forward lines. We saw it a little bit, but then Scott Arniel goes right back to the same forward lines, whereas maybe because of the fact that these guys are struggling offensively, you'd like to see maybe a few more tweaks here and there. And that's something that I'm going to be curious to see if we see in tonight's game. Do we see the blender come out if the Jets don't score? And I do think that there's a good chance the Jets score the first goal. We've seen it, I mentioned Nino Niederreiter's goal in Game 1. So it's going to be a battle of who executes better, who turns the puck over less, whose attention to detail is better. It's
what about Perfetti on the power play, Dave? We've talked about the power play struggling. Perfetti, was obviously with the power play unit being back at full strength. You saw Perfetti, who had been playing on that first power play unit, back to the second unit. Mm-hmm. What about something there? Or do you think that would just be sort of a bridge too far at this point during this contest?
I mean, for me, first of all, you played fine at home, and my concern is also upsetting the apple cart. You've played to your strength, and that first power play unit was your strength. And the second power play unit was a strength with Perfetti on it. Now, look, he had a power play goal when he was on the first unit, right? When Ehlers wasn't available. Yeah. So it's not that he hasn't done it. And again, like I said, but the problem is they had looks. That's the issue. They did get looks. So you're to me, I wouldn't be so quick to just get rid of everything. I think that I don't actually have a problem. I would make some tweaks in your bottom 6. I probably would flip Iafallo and Appleton, but I know that they like Appleton with Lowry and Niederreiter. But so that's probably one change I would make. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think he has confidence in this group, and he's won or lost with them for the most part in this season, obviously when not dealing with injuries. So from that perspective, I really do think that you're going to kind of see that continue, because he's like, well, listen, I'm not going to start I'm not going to start making radical changes. We're not getting blown out in these games. Like, they're not. It's not like you talked about that Colorado series, Drew, last year where they were getting bombed.
Right.
And you're like, and nothing was working. Well, it's not like these things aren't working. It's just, again, it's those little details that it doesn't matter what line you're on. If Nino Niederreiter's on the third or fourth line, or I guess he's on technically the third line.
If he doesn't get that puck in deep.
If he doesn't get that puck in deep, then it doesn't matter what line he's on, right? And so similarly, it's just those little things. Connor Herabchuk has to be, better set. He has to play a better all-around game.
Every goal has to be from 20 feet in as opposed to 30
Well, no,
feet
I mean,
in.
like I said, if they get a ton of coverage in front and they get a greasy one, it's fine. But you just don't want to see him be clean, and that's a concern. So, like I said, we could go down the list. Guys have played well, but we could also go down the list and point out things, and that's easy to do. It's easy to do when you're up above, the ice where it's, so high, looking down on them and kind of watching what they're doing. It's easy to analyze it, right? It's easy to point out the flaws or the mistakes. And let's be realistic. Anything that we are saying right now has been said to these players. Scott Arniel's gone through the video with all of these guys. They had to watch it. They might not have liked it. Every single guy knows the mistakes they've made. So they just know that they cannot afford in tonight's game. That's where you have to be clean. That's where you have to have that attention to detail. No more important a game than tonight.
By the way, that was quite the white wave that we just saw. We just saw like 20 people walk by.
The Jets fans are pouring through here at Cityplace. They're excited. They're
ready. Is it pouring outside?
Well, I don't know what the weather's like outside. I don't see it right now.
It was an interesting day, intermittent. We hope for some rain, obviously.
Yes.
For East Man.
No question.
Our thoughts are going out to everyone in
what a tragedy.
In the White Shell and obviously northwestern Ontario, and people dealing with notifications and wildfires. Two of our fellow Manitobans lost their lives, so our condolences to their family. And it was nice of Scott Arniel to kind of put that into perspective as well, right? He said, this is a game. Those people are dealing with real life, whether it's property loss or actual loss of life. So I know everybody cares, and it's important. And trust me, it's our focus here on the show and on the website. But
even more reason why we hope the Jets win tonight in memory of those two Manitobans that we lost.
Well, and also, and one of the things that Arniel talked about was it does pick up everybody. Let's be realistic. I can't tell you how many people I talk to, whether it's my dad calling me every day to talk about hockey, my mom calling me every day to talk about hockey, my siblings, people are just excited to talk about the Jets. So as he's not wrong, this does give people, Arniel he kind of ended his comment saying, hopefully we can get a win for them. And of course he was thanking the first responders who are looking after, fighting the fires. And it's terrible. I mean, I saw the Nopaming sign has been torched. I know people have lost their cottages, and obviously we've had some loss of life. So terrible tragedy, and I'm not trying to end on a low note, but our thoughts are going out to everyone. And
well, at the end of the day,
there's a little rain for them.
Hockey's not the most important thing. That's what I think you're trying to say here.
Well, the perspective is important to keep, but you're right that it is.
Like T-Will in the chat right now said, the forest fire stopped about 2 minutes from his cabin.
Yeah, well, so I mean, everyone's you got more important things to worry about and everything else along those lines. So that when we talk about a player not getting the puck in deep, it's again with a grain of salt when it comes to the importance of it all.
Although boring Sean Monahan says, I'm hoping it's pouring Jets goals tonight. So he's tying it in.
Well,
to the,
Ezzy, I have to discuss something with you. You said,
I knew it was coming up. Here we go.
There was 0%. So this is what Ezzy tweeted about. A couple hours ago, who wants to bet that Drew says something along the lines of, it's raining outside in Winnipeg, so hopefully it will be raining goals for the Jets tonight against the Stars. That's never anything I would ever say. It's
come on. That's totally up your alley,
No, it's
Drew.
not. It's far too pedantic. It's far too basic. It's far too simple. There's not the least bit of anything beyond a base layer there. You've known me for 35 years, 40 years. I'm better than something like that. I'm a little bit hurt and insulted, I'll be honest.
No, it's something you would totally say. I'll say it. Hopefully it's raining outside, and it's also raining goals at Canada Life Center, baby. Let's go.
Okay, well, fine. You can say it in that case instead of me. And
by the way, T-Will just pointed something out, Drew. You literally just said it.
Well, I know I just said it, but only to comment that I would never have acted. As he was saying it, as I was going to say it earnestly.
I love you, T-Will.
Earnestly and make it be something that I'm really passionate about.
Frosty pointed out that that Drew would say it's raining men.
Well,
hallelujah.
Hallelujah, indeed. In any event, the Jets and the Dallas Stars in about an hour's time. So we're looking forward to that. We remind all of you to join us after the game on the Illegal Curve post-game show. We'll either be teeing up Game 6 or we'll be lamenting the end of the Winnipeg Jets season.
I'm inclined to think we'll be doing the former.
I tend to agree with you.
And Tim's dad is going to be in attendance. The Jets never lose when Tim's dad's in attendance, right? It's never happened.
That's just fact. That's science right there. So we're looking forward to that. After the game, we will be with you on the YouTube channel, on all of our social media platforms. Time will tell if we're back here at Cityplace for a Game 7 on Monday or not.
I hope so.
If we are, obviously, we encourage you to join us, but big thanks to our friends at Cityplace. They've had us all season long. They've had us during every home playoff game. We are thrilled to be here with you, and we thank, of course, our friends at Cityplace for being so welcoming, and all the vendors and all the great tenants here who make this place a lot of fun before and after every Winnipeg Jets game, and of course all the time, even when we're not here. Big thank you, of course, to producer Tim for doing a great job. Big thanks to Tim's dad for joining us as well here behind the velvet ropes. Not just anybody gets chair privilege here on the show. This is it's terrific to have you here as well. Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mandel. We'll be back after the game tonight. Until then, everybody enjoy the Jets and the Stars. This has been a special edition of the Illegal Curve pregame show. We'll see everybody later tonight for the Illegal Curve post-game show. Woo!